Welcome, dear dreamers, to a realm of ancient nights and enchanted forests. Tonight, let the world of Eldoria unfold. A land once bright and alive, now cloaked in shadow. Close your eyes and drift with me into the story of Sir Alaric, a brave knight whose journey will take us through enchanted forests, forgotten villages, and to the heart of a mysterious darkness. Let the story guide you and allow each word to bring you closer to a place of dreams and calm. Settle in and let this tale carry you gently to sleep. In the heart of Eldoria, a kingdom known for its towering spires and lush valleys, a shadow had begun to spread. The once vibrant lands where farmers tilled golden fields and children played in the sun-dappled woods now languished under a pall of unease. The air, once sweet with the scent of blooming flowers, carried a biting chill, and the people whispered in fear of the unknown darkness that threatened their home. The king, beloved by his subjects, lay confined to his bed, stricken by a mysterious illness that even the most skilled healers could not cure. His once bright eyes, now dull and clouded, reflected the despair that gripped the realm. The kingdom's advisors, wise men who had seen many seasons, gathered in the great hall, their faces etched with worry. Among them stood Sir Alaric, a young knight whose bravery and loyalty had earned him the trust of the crown. Sir Alaric, the king's chief advisor, Aemon, spoke with a voice heavy with the weight of years. The darkness that has befallen our land is not of this world. It is the work of dark magic, wielded by the Shadow Lord, a warlord who seeks to claim Eldoria for his own. Alaric's hand tightened around the hilt of his sword, a surge of determination flooding his veins. What must be done, my lord? I will not stand by while our kingdom falls to ruin. Aemon stepped forward, his robes whispering against the cold stone floor. His eyes, though aged, gleamed with a spark of hope. There is a way, though it is perilous. Long ago, when the forces of darkness first threatened our realm, a great wizard forged a medallion of unparalleled power. This enchanted medallion grants its bearer protection against all evil and possesses the power to banish darkness. It lies hidden in the forest of shadows, guarded by ancient magic. Alaric nodded, his resolve unshaken. I will retrieve this medallion, no matter the cost. For the king, for Eldoria. Aemon placed a wrinkled hand on Alaric's shoulder, a gesture of both blessing and burden. Beware, Sir Alaric. The forest of shadows is a place where light does not easily reach. Many have ventured there, seeking glory or salvation, but few have returned. You will face trials that test not just your strength, but your very soul. Alaric met the advisor's gaze, unwavering. I am ready. The following morning, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Alaric set out from the castle. The air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of earth and pine. The kingdom, shrouded in mist, seemed to hold its breath as its knight embarked on a journey that would determine its fate. The path to the Forest of Shadows was long and winding, leading Alaric through villages that bore the marks of the kingdom's decline. Homes once filled with laughter now stood silent, their windows darkened, and their doors shut tight against the encroaching fear. But as he rode, Alaric's heart remained steadfast. The thought of his king, weakened yet still fighting, spurred him onward. By midday, Alaric reached the edge of the forest. The trees stood tall and foreboding, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that blocked out the sun. A chill ran down his spine as he dismounted and stepped forward, the shadows swallowing him whole. As he ventured deeper, the light grew dimmer, and the world around him seemed to shift and blur. The forest was alive, its whispers brushing against his ears like the faintest of breezes, filling his mind with thoughts that were not his own. Doubt crept into his heart, but Alaric pushed it aside. He could not, would not, fail. Ahead, the path twisted into the unknown, where the medallion and the fate of Eldoria awaited. This opening part sets the stage for Alaric's quest, introducing the stakes and the initial challenges he faces as he embarks on his journey. The tone is set with a sense of urgency and impending danger, capturing the fantasy style with rich descriptions and a focus on the hero's resolve. As dawn broke over Eldoria, Sir Alaric prepared for the journey that lay ahead. The castle's courtyard buzzed with the muted clinks of armor and the rustling of cloaks as he gathered his provisions. He clasped the map given by Aemon, its edges worn and frayed, a guide to the labyrinthine forest of shadows. The map's ink, though faded, still marked the way with ancient symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly glow. The forest of shadows rose before Alaric like a living entity, its dense canopy casting a perpetual twilight upon the ground. The trees, ancient and gnarled, intertwined their branches in a web that filtered the light into eerie patterns. Every step Alaric took seemed to echo unnervingly in the stillness, as if the forest itself was listening, watching. As he ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and a creeping fog began to rise from the forest floor. Strange sounds surrounded him, whispers that seemed to come from the very trees, their voices a jumbled murmur of lost souls. Shadows flickered just beyond the edge of his vision, elusive and fleeting. Alaric's hand rested on the hilt of his sword, his senses sharp and his heart pounding. Suddenly, the forest erupted into a symphony of chaos. The ground trembled, and a figure emerged from the mist, a forest nymph, her ethereal form shimmering with an almost luminescent quality. Her hair flowed like a cascade of leaves, and her eyes, though gentle, held an inscrutable depth. "You tread on dangerous ground, Sir Alaric." The nymph's voice was like a melody carried on the breeze. The Forest of Shadows is a place where fear and illusion walk hand in hand. You seek the Enchanted Medallion, but the path is fraught with perils that even the bravest cannot face alone. Alaric drew his sword, its blade gleaming with a steady resolve. I seek to save my kingdom and heal my king. Tell me, how can I find the medallion? The nymph regarded him with a gaze both solemn and sorrowful. I cannot leave this place, but I can offer you aid. Take this vial of light. She held out a small ornate vial filled with a shimmering liquid. It will guide you through the darkest parts of the forest, but use it sparingly. The light is a precious resource, and the forest will try to consume it. With a graceful nod, she disappeared into the mist, leaving Alaric alone once more. The vial, though delicate in appearance, felt reassuringly warm in his hand. He continued on his path, the vial casting a gentle glow that pushed back the encroaching darkness. Hours passed, or perhaps it was days. Time seemed distorted in the oppressive gloom of the forest. Alaric faced numerous trials, shifting paths that led him in circles, shadowy figures that mimicked his every move, and illusions that preyed on his deepest fears. Yet, with the vial's light guiding him, he pressed forward, each step a testament to his unwavering determination. Finally, he reached a clearing, bathed in an eerie twilight. At its center stood an ancient, twisted oak, its roots sprawling like the fingers of a giant. Carved into its trunk were runes that pulsed with a faint rhythmic glow. Alaric approached cautiously, the vial's light casting long shadows that danced around him. The runes began to shift and swirl, revealing a hidden passageway beneath the oak's roots. With a deep breath, Alaric descended into the darkness. The light from the vial piercing through the thickening gloom. The path ahead was uncertain, but the promise of the enchanted medallion drove him onward, even as the forest seemed to close in around him, its whispers growing louder and more insistent. Armed with the vial of light, Sir Alaric pressed on through the forest of shadows, the eerie silence occasionally broken by distant, disconcerting noises. The nymph's gift provided a comforting glow in the encroaching gloom, revealing twisted roots and hidden traps that might otherwise have ensnared him. Despite the guidance, Alaric felt a gnawing sense of urgency, as if time itself was slipping away. The forest began to thin, and a misty veil parted to reveal a forsaken village. Once vibrant homes now stood as skeletal frames, and the fields lay barren and choked with weeds. An unsettling stillness hung over the village, punctuated by the faint murmur of voices caught in a perpetual twilight. The villagers, appearing as shadows of their former selves, moved aimlessly, their expressions vacant. Alaric's heart sank as he approached the village square, where he was greeted by an elderly woman draped in tattered robes. Her eyes, though sunken, held a glimmer of hope as they fell upon Alaric. She extended a trembling hand towards him. "Stranger, are you here to free us?" "What happened here?" Alaric asked, his voice steady despite the chill of the scene. The woman's voice quavered with sorrow. "Many moons ago, a witch cursed our village. We are bound in eternal twilight, trapped between sleep and wakefulness. She guards the path to the medallion, her magic keeping us in this endless limbo. Only by confronting her can we hope to lift the curse." Alaric nodded, determination stealing his resolve. "I will confront this witch. Tell me where to find her." With a gesture of her hand, the woman led Alaric to the edge of the village, where a dilapidated tower loomed ominously. Its stones were overgrown with moss and creeping vines, and its windows, dark and foreboding, seemed to watch him with malevolent eyes. As Alaric approached, the wind picked up, carrying with it a chilling wail. The door to the tower creaked open, and a shiver ran down Alaric's spine. He entered cautiously, his sword drawn, the vial of light held at the ready. Inside, the air was thick with an acrid scent, and the walls were lined with shelves of eerie glowing artifacts. At the tower's center, seated upon a throne of twisted roots and darkened stone, was the witch. Her presence was both commanding and sinister. Her long silver hair cascading around her like a serpent's coil. "Welcome, knight," she intoned, her voice like the hiss of a serpent. "You come seeking the medallion, I presume?" Alaric's grip tightened on his sword. "Release these people from their curse, witch, and guide me to the medallion." A harsh laugh echoed through the tower. "You think you can command me? This village is but a small price for my power. If you wish to challenge me, you must face the trials of my magic." With a sudden wave of her hand, the witch unleashed a storm of illusions. Shadows danced and twisted around Alaric, each more horrifying than the last. The vial of light glowed fiercely in his grasp, casting away the darkest of the illusions. But the witch's trials were relentless. Alaric fought bravely, his sword cleaving through the shadows and dispelling the vile illusions. The witch's laughter turned to anger, her magic flaring in a desperate attempt to overwhelm him. But Alaric's resolve was unwavering, and with a final decisive strike, he broke through the witch's defenses. The witch fell to her knees, her power waning. As she lay defeated, the curse began to lift. The village was bathed in sunlight for the first time in years, the oppressive twilight giving way to the warm embrace of day. The villagers emerged from their homes, their faces filled with gratitude and relief. They guided Alaric towards the next stage of his journey, their eyes bright with a hope. With the village freed and his path cleared, Alaric prepared to continue his quest for the Enchanted Medallion, aware that even greater challenges awaited him beyond the forest. Sat the witch, her presence as formidable as the decay that surrounded her. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, glowed with a malevolent light. Her robes, though tattered, seemed to shimmer with dark enchantments. As Alaric stepped into the chamber, the witch raised her gaze, her expression a blend of amusement and disdain. "Ah, a brave soul arrives," she crooned, her voice echoing eerily off the stone walls. "What brings you to my domain, knight? Have you come to challenge the curse I've placed upon these wretched people?" Alaric tightened his grip on his sword, the vial of light still clutched in his other hand. "I seek the Enchanted Medallion, and I will not leave until it is in my possession. I've come to lift the curse upon this village and restore peace to Eldoria." The witch's laughter was a harsh, grating sound that sent a shiver through Alaric. "The medallion is not so easily claimed. It is protected by powerful enchantments, and only one with true resolve can hope to retrieve it. But first, you must face the trials I set before you." Without warning, the witch raised her hands, and the room began to twist and shimmer. The air grew thick with swirling shadows that coalesced into nightmarish forms. Ghastly apparitions and spectral beasts that lunged at Alaric with predatory hunger. With a battle cry, Alaric charged forward, his sword slicing through the apparitions with a flash of steel and light. The vial of light, when uncorked, bathed the room in a warm golden glow, pushing back the darkness and illuminating the path through the swirling chaos. The spectral creatures recoiled from the light, their forms disintegrating into wisps of smoke. Amidst the fray, Alaric saw the witch's eyes narrow in frustration. With a flick of her wrist, she summoned a powerful gust of wind that threatened to knock Alaric off his feet. He staggered but managed to hold his ground, using the sword to deflect the forceful gusts and pressing on. The witch's laughter turned into a snarl as she conjured a swirling vortex of dark energy aimed directly at Alaric. He raised the vial of light high, its brilliance intensifying and cutting through the dark magic like a beacon. The vortex faltered, and with a final determined surge, Alaric's sword cleaved through the heart of the darkness, shattering the witch's spell. The witch staggered, her power visibly waning. Her gaze locked with Alaric's, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of something, regret perhaps, crossed her face. "You have proven your worth, knight. The curse upon the village will lift, and the medallion is yours. But remember, even the brightest light casts shadows." With a wave of her hand, the witch's dark presence dissipated, and the room returned to its former state. The vial of light dimmed, but its purpose had been fulfilled. Alaric stepped forward, the tower's shadows receding as if acknowledging his victory. As he emerged from the tower, the village greeted him with renewed hope. The eternal twilight lifted, and sunlight poured into the once dismal square. The villagers, now free from their curse, cheered and thanked Alaric for his bravery. With renewed strength and a heart full of purpose, Alaric prepared for the next leg of his journey, the Enchanted Medallion now within his reach. His path would soon lead him to the final trials that awaited in the Forest of Shadows. But for now, the kingdom's hope burned brighter than ever. The witch's dark magic collided with the light from the vial, creating a blinding clash of energies that illuminated the chamber in a kaleidoscope of shadows and brilliance. Alaric fought with relentless determination, his sword a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. With a mighty swing, he severed the last of the spectral apparitions, their forms dissolving into nothingness. The witch, her face now contorted with rage, began to weave a more complex spell, her hands moving in intricate patterns as she chanted an incantation. Realizing that direct confrontation alone would not suffice, Alaric took a deep breath and focused on the vial's light, using it to push back the vortex of dark energy. He advanced towards the witch, weaving through the storm of magic. Just as he reached her, the chamber shook violently, and the walls seemed to pulse with dark power. The witch unleashed a final desperate burst of dark energy, but Alaric, with the light from the vial as his shield, deflected the attack and closed the distance. With a decisive strike, he brought his sword down upon the witch's staff, shattering it and breaking her concentration. The dark magic dissipated, and the witch's power waned. The witch staggered, her strength ebbing away. She looked at Alaric with a mixture of fury and resignation. "You have won this battle, but the medallion is not easily claimed. It is hidden beyond trials that test more than mere strength." As the witch's form began to fade into shadow, she extended a trembling hand towards a hidden alcove in the wall. "In the alcove," she said, her voice a fading echo, "you will find a key. It is the first step to claiming the medallion." Alaric approached the alcove, his heart pounding with anticipation. Inside, nestled among ancient relics and dust-covered tomes, lay a small, ornate box. He carefully lifted it and opened it to reveal a key, its surface engraved with intricate runes that glowed faintly. With the key in hand, Alaric made his way back through the tower, where the air now felt lighter, and the oppressive weight of darkness seemed to lift. The villagers, now freed from their eternal twilight, gathered in the square, their faces reflecting gratitude and relief. The elderly woman who had guided him earlier approached, her eyes bright with hope. "Thank you, brave knight," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "The curse is lifted, and the village can now be restored. Take this key. It is the key to the next trial. It will guide you to the hidden chamber where the medallion awaits." Alaric nodded, his resolve strengthened by the villagers' gratitude and the knowledge that his quest was far from over. As he left the village, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that each step brought him closer to the Enchanted Medallion and the salvation of Eldoria. With the key securely tucked away, Alaric resumed his journey through the forest of shadows, the path ahead fraught with uncertainty, but illuminated by the light of hope and determination. With the key in hand, Alaric left the cursed village behind, its once dim streets now brimming with light and vitality. The villagers, freed from their cursed state, offered their heartfelt thanks, their gratitude a balm to Alaric's weary spirit. The elderly woman, who had once been a mere shadow in the twilight, now stood with renewed hope in her eyes. "May your path be guided by the light you have restored," she said, her voice firm and sincere. "The key you hold will lead you to the hidden chamber where the Enchanted Medallion lies. But beware, the trials you face are not merely of strength. They are of heart and mind." Alaric nodded, determination etched into every line of his face. With a final glance at the village, he turned and journeyed back into the forest of shadows, the vial of light still glowing softly at his side. The forest seemed less foreboding now, as if acknowledging the weight of the task ahead. The journey through the forest's depths was fraught with challenges, but Alaric pressed on, guided by the map and the ancient key. The forest's dark magic seemed to warp and twist around him, but he remained focused on his goal. After several days of travel, Alaric arrived at the edge of the forest, where the trees parted to reveal a hidden valley. At the valley's center stood an ancient stone archway, half buried in ivy and moss. The archway was adorned with symbols and runes that pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. Alaric approached the archway, his pulse quickening as he examined the runes. The symbols matched those on the key he had recovered from the witch's lair. Inserting the key into a hidden lock, he turned it slowly. The ground trembled, and the archway groaned as it began to shift, revealing a descending staircase carved into the rock. The air was cool and damp, carrying with it a faint metallic tang. Alaric descended the staircase, the walls lined with ancient inscriptions and glowing runes that illuminated his path. At the base of the staircase, he found himself in a vast underground chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. The chamber was filled with relics and artifacts, their magical auras shimmering in the dim light. In the center of the chamber, upon a pedestal of gleaming crystal, rested a velvet-lined box. Approaching the pedestal with reverent steps, Alaric carefully opened the box. Inside lay the Enchanted Medallion, its surface encrusted with radiant gems that caught the light and refracted it into a dazzling spectrum of colors. The medallion radiated a palpable aura of power, and Alaric could feel its magic pulsing in harmony with his own heartbeat. But as he reached for the medallion, the chamber began to tremble, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the cavern. "You have proven your worthiness. But the true test lies ahead. To claim the medallion, you must first confront your deepest fears. The ground beneath Alaric shifted, and the chamber transformed into a maze of shifting shadows and illusions. Phantom images of his past fears and failures materialized around him, their taunts and threats echoing in the dark. Alaric, his grip on the medallion unwavering, steeled himself against the onslaught of his fears. With each step, he confronted the phantoms, pushing through the darkness with the light of his resolve and the strength of his purpose. The medallion's aura provided a beacon of hope, guiding him through the maze and dispelling the illusions that sought to overwhelm him. As the final illusion dissipated, Alaric emerged victorious, the medallion now firmly in his grasp. He had faced his fears and proven his worth. The chamber's walls glowed with the warm light, and the tremors ceased. The medallion's power was now his to wield, and he knew that the next stage of his journey lay ahead. Returning to Eldoria to save his kingdom and heal his king. Alaric approached the pedestal with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The chamber's dim light flickered across the velvet-lined box, casting ethereal shadows on the walls. The air was heavy with anticipation, and the faint hum of magic seemed to resonate through the stone. With cautious reverence, Alaric reached for the box, his fingers brushing against its surface. The moment he touched it, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The ground shifted, and the once still air crackled with energy. From the shadows a figure emerged, a guardian spirit bound to protect the enchanted medallion. The guardian was clad in armor of shimmering stardust, its face obscured by a helm adorned with ancient runes. "You seek the enchanted medallion," the guardian's voice boomed, resonating with both authority and sadness. "To claim it, you must prove your worthiness through trials of heart and mind. Only those who truly deserve its power shall succeed." Alaric's resolve solidified. "I am ready. What must I do?" The guardian's form shimmered as it extended a glowing hand toward a large, ornate door on the opposite side of the chamber. "Beyond this door lies the first trial. Face it with honesty and courage." Alaric nodded and approached the door, its surface covered in intricate carvings depicting various scenes of heroism and tragedy. He placed his hand on the door, which creaked open to reveal a room bathed in soft golden light. Inside, a mirror stood alone, its surface gleaming with a magical brilliance. As Alaric stepped into the room, the door closed behind him with a soft thud. The mirror's surface rippled like a tranquil pond, and suddenly an image appeared, his own reflection, but distorted and twisted into a grotesque version of himself. The reflection spoke, its voice echoing with malice. "You are not the hero you claim to be," the twisted reflection sneered. "You are driven by vanity and pride. Can you face the truth of your own darkness?" Alaric stared at the distorted image, the words cutting deep. Doubt and insecurity clawed at his heart, but he forced himself to look past the reflection's cruel visage. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts and confronting his inner fears. "I am not perfect," Alaric said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But I strive to be a better man. I am driven by duty and love for my kingdom. I face my flaws with courage, not denial." The mirror's surface shimmered and then cleared, the twisted reflection vanishing. The room filled with a warm, soothing light. The door on the far side of the room creaked open, revealing the next chamber. Alaric stepped through, feeling a surge of relief and resolve. In the new chamber, he found a second trial, a vast expanse with floating platforms suspended over an abyss. The platforms were marked with symbols and runes that glowed faintly, and a series of riddles hovered in the air, their voices intertwining into a complex melody. As Alaric stepped onto the first platform, a voice boomed from the shadows. "Solve the riddles and prove your wisdom. Only then will you proceed to the final trial." Alaric's mind raced as he faced the riddles, each one challenging his understanding and intellect. With a combination of careful thought and intuition, he deciphered the answers, each correct solution revealing a new path across the chasm. Finally, having solved the last riddle, Alaric stepped onto the final platform, which led to an ornate door engraved with a single rune, one that matched the key he had found. With a deep breath, he unlocked the door and entered the last chamber, his heart pounding with anticipation. In the center of the chamber, on a pedestal bathed in golden light, lay the Enchanted Medallion, its surface gleaming with a radiant aura. As Alaric approached, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment and hope, knowing that his journey had brought him one step closer to saving his kingdom and his king. "I am not perfect," Alaric said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But I strive to be better, to act with honor and courage. My journey has been driven by a desire to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and to bring light to the darkness that threatens my kingdom." The mirror's surface shimmered, and the grotesque reflection began to distort and fade. The golden light in the room grew brighter, and the mirror's surface cleared, revealing Alaric's own reflection once more. But now it was calm and resolute. A sense of relief washed over him, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. The door behind him creaked open, and Alaric stepped through to find himself in a new chamber, this one filled with ancient books and scrolls. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and ink. At the room's center stood a pedestal with a single ancient tome resting upon it. Approaching the pedestal, Alaric noticed that the book was bound in dark leather, its cover embossed with a complex symbol. As he reached for it, the air seemed to grow colder, and a voice, soft yet commanding, spoke from the shadows. To claim the medallion, you must also face the trial of the mind, the voice intoned. This tome holds a riddle that tests your wisdom and discernment. Solve it to prove your intellect and your readiness. Alaric took a deep breath and opened the tome. The pages were filled with arcane text and illustrations of cryptic symbols. At the end of the book, a riddle was inscribed in elegant script. In the depths of night, where shadows reign, light will guide you, but not in vain. Speak the truth and reveal the path. Find the answer. Escape the wrath. Alaric pondered the riddle, his mind racing through the knowledge he had accumulated over his years as a knight. The trial was not merely about finding an answer, but about understanding the deeper meaning behind the words. After a moment of contemplation, Alaric recalled the nymph's advice and the trials he had already faced. He realized that the riddle was asking him to speak truth and reveal his intentions. He closed his eyes, focused on his mission, and spoke aloud. By seeking the medallion, I seek not for power or glory, but to protect my people and heal my king. The path I choose is guided by truth and honor. As he spoke the words, the tome began to glow, and the symbols on the pages rearranged themselves into a new pattern. The pedestal shifted, revealing a hidden compartment containing a small, ornate box. Alaric opened the box to find a key that gleamed with a soft golden light. This was the final key, the one that would unlock the chamber where the enchanted medallion was kept. With the key in hand, Alaric moved to the door at the far end of the chamber. As he inserted the key into the lock and turned it, the door creaked open, revealing a vast cavernous chamber bathed in a celestial glow. At its center, upon a raised platform, lay the enchanted medallion, shimmering with an almost palpable aura of power and protection. The sight of the medallion filled Alaric with a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. His quest was nearly at an end, but the true challenge lay in retrieving the medallion and using it to save his kingdom from the encroaching darkness. As Alaric spoke the truth of his mission, by seeking the medallion, I seek not for power or glory, but to protect my people and heal my kingdom. The tome's pages began to shimmer and shift. The text glowed softly, and the cryptic symbols rearranged themselves into a clearer message. The pedestal on which the tome rested began to rotate slowly, revealing a hidden compartment beneath. Within it lay a small, ornate chest, its surface encrusted with gems that twinkled with an otherworldly light. Alaric's heart raced as he carefully lifted the chest from its resting place and opened it. Inside, nestled within a bed of velvet, was the enchanted medallion. Its surface was a mesmerizing blend of gold and silver, intricately engraved with ancient runes that seemed to pulse with a gentle, reassuring glow. The medallion radiated a warmth that was both calming and invigorating. a stark contrast to the cold, dark chamber. As Alaric reached for the medallion, a gentle voice spoke from the shadows. It was the guardian spirit, appearing once more in a shimmering, spectral form. "Congratulations, Sir Alaric," the guardian's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have proven your worth through the trials of heart and mind. The Enchanted Medallion is now yours to wield." With the medallion in hand, Alaric felt a surge of power and clarity. The weight of his responsibility seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of profound purpose. The chamber's oppressive darkness receded, and the air grew lighter and more breathable. Alaric turned to leave, but the guardian spirit held up a hand. "One final task remains," the guardian said. "Return to the kingdom and use the medallion to confront the Shadow Lord. The darkness that plagues Eldoria must be banished for good." Alaric nodded. His determination rekindled. "I will not fail. The medallion's power will help me protect my people and restore peace to our land." With renewed resolve, Alaric made his way back through the hidden chamber and up the staircase. As he emerged into the sunlight, the forest seemed to welcome him, its shadows retreating in deference to the medallion's light. The journey back to Eldoria was swift, fueled by Alaric's urgent mission. As he approached the kingdom's borders, the medallion's glow seemed to pierce through the dark clouds that had gathered over the land. The skies cleared, and the first rays of sunlight in days illuminated the kingdom. The people of Eldoria gathered in anticipation as Alaric returned, the medallion gleaming proudly around his neck. The king, though still weak, looked up with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Your return is a blessing," the king said, his voice weak but filled with gratitude. "With the medallion, we shall defeat the Shadow Lord and reclaim our kingdom." Alaric nodded, ready for the final battle. "With this medallion, we shall drive back the darkness and restore peace to Eldoria. The quest is not over yet, but with this artifact, victory is within our grasp." As Alaric prepared for the confrontation with the Shadow Lord, the medallion's light grew ever brighter, a symbol of hope and strength. The kingdom of Eldoria, on the brink of despair, now stood on the threshold of a new dawn, guided by the hero who had braved trials and darkness to save his people. The journey back to Eldoria was marked by an unwavering resolve. The medallion, now safely tucked into Alaric's satchel, seemed to pulse with a steady rhythm, a reassuring heartbeat of light that cut through the shadowy remnants of the forest of shadows. As Alaric neared the kingdom, the once foreboding landscape appeared to brighten, as if welcoming him home. Eldoria's castle loomed in the distance, its towers piercing the sky like sentinels of hope. The air was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation and trepidation. Alaric quickened his pace, determined to confront the Shadow Lord and bring an end to the darkness that had gripped his kingdom. Upon reaching the castle gates, Alaric was greeted by a somber assembly of the king's advisors and guards. Their eyes, weary but hopeful, followed him with a mixture of awe and relief. Aemon, the king's chief advisor, approached him, his face lined with concern and anticipation. "Sir Alaric, you have returned," Aemon said, his voice a blend of hope and desperation. "Have you found the medallion?" Alaric nodded, producing the medallion with a flourish. "I have, and it is our hope against the darkness. We must act swiftly to confront the Shadow Lord." With the medallion in hand, Alaric led the way to the castle's great hall, where the ailing king lay in his chamber, surrounded by healers and advisors. The room fell silent as Alaric entered, the presence of the medallion casting a warm, golden light that contrasted sharply with the cold, oppressive atmosphere of the chamber. The Shadow Lord, a dark figure shrouded in a swirling cloak of darkness, had taken up residence in the castle's outer courtyard. His presence was a malignancy that seemed to leech the very light from the surroundings. His eyes, like burning coals, turned towards Alaric with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "You dare challenge me with that trinket?" The Shadow Lord's voice was a harsh whisper filled with venom and derision. "You are a fool if you think a mere medallion can undo the power of the darkness I command." Alaric's grip tightened on the medallion. "This trinket is a beacon of hope and protection. It will end your tyranny and restore balance to Eldoria." The Shadow Lord laughed, a sound that reverberated with a chilling coldness. "Then come, knight. Let us see if your precious medallion can stand against the forces of the abyss." The final confrontation began with a surge of dark magic. The Shadow Lord unleashed torrents of shadowy energy that lashed out with malevolent intent. Alaric, shielded by the medallion's light, advanced with a resolute stride, his sword gleaming with the reflection of the medallion's glow. As the battle raged on, Alaric used the medallion's power to deflect and counter the dark magic. The medallion's light cut through the shadows, illuminating the battlefield with a fierce brilliance. The Shadow Lord's attacks became increasingly frantic, his dark power waning in the face of the medallion's unyielding light. Alaric seized the opportunity and with a powerful thrust drove his sword through the heart of the Shadow Lord's darkness. The malevolent figure writhed and screamed as the light from the medallion enveloped him, banishing the darkness and restoring the kingdom's equilibrium. As the last remnants of the Shadow Lord's power dissipated, a profound silence fell over the courtyard. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the first rays of dawn began to pierce the horizon, signaling the return of hope and light. Eldoria's people emerged from their hiding places, their faces reflecting relief and joy. The king, his strength slowly returning, looked upon Alaric with gratitude and pride. The kingdom, once shrouded in despair, now basked in the promise of a new beginning.